How far back do I trace it? How many versions of me have lived already, just trying to be loved the right way? There was the girl who stayed awake all night overanalyzing a single word reply. The one who forgave things she promised herself she would never allow. The one who lowered her standards just to feel chosen. The one who smiled and said, "I'm okay," while her entire world was collapsing inside. And she wore her hijab. She believed in Allah. She tried to keep her prayers on time. But when it came to love, she kept turning toward men who hadn't even chosen themselves. Not because she was needy, but because she had a gentle heart and no compass. So every time she gave, she hoped. Every time she stayed silent, she thought it was Sabr. Every time she crossed a line, she convinced herself, this is what a good woman does, right? But that was the lie. A lie dressed in false strength and quiet survival. Because being a good woman in Islam was never about abandoning yourself in order to be loved. It was about remembering that Allah declared your worth long before any man laid eyes on you. And we forget that. Somewhere between the Islamic soundbites and the toxic TikToks, between the fake Deen speakers and the emotionally unavailable Halal boys, too many women start bleeding quietly under the label of love. This isn't about hating men. It isn't about turning bitter or hard. It's about waking up from a version of love that was never love at all. It's about returning to the worth Allah already wrote for you before someone tries to make your heart their unfinished project. Because here's the reality. Some women fall in love, others lose themselves inside it. This message is for the ones who are fading without realizing it yet. Think about that pause, that tiny moment before you say yes, even though everything inside you is screaming, don't do it. You feel it in your chest, in your stomach, in that small tightening you keep ignoring. But you silence it again because you don't want to seem difficult, dramatic, or too sensitive. So you agree. Yes to things that unsettle you. Yes to jokes that cross your lines. Yes to conversations that slip closer to haram. Yes to plans you once called red flags but now call compromise. And it's not because you're weak. It's not even because you want to sin. It's because deep down you just want to be chosen. You want to feel, even once, that you're enough without being called boring, emotional, or too religious. So you begin to bargain with your values. Not in one dramatic moment, but in small erasures. You stop saying no. You stop correcting him. You stop mentioning Allah. Because last time you did, he pulled back a little, and now silence feels safer than honesty. But tell me, since when did love mean erasing yourself so someone else could notice you? Since when did being understanding mean becoming unrecognizable to the woman you once were? This is the part that hurts to admit, but you know it's true. Most women don't lose themselves through a single heartbreak. They lose themselves in tiny, hidden negotiations, where their comfort stops mattering, their faith becomes flexible, and their voice turns quiet. And the worst part? They convince themselves it's Sabr, that they're just being patient, that this is what good women do to earn love. But Islam never told you to win love by deleting yourself. Allah gave you limits to protect your honor, not to be traded away just because someone makes your heart flutter. Even the Prophet Muhammad respected people's boundaries, even in love, in pain, in sin. He never forced, never manipulated, never took advantage of silence. So who convinced you that being quiet equals being loyal? Who told you that swallowing your discomfort is the price of being loved? Here's the reminder you need. A real man, the one Allah has written for you, will not be offended by your boundaries. He will be grateful for them because they safeguard the very thing he wants to protect, your honor. So next time you feel that pause, listen. That's not anxiety. That's your fitra pushing back. You wake up, and the first thing you check is your phone. Not the prayer time, not your breath, not your heart, just whether he replied. Was it short? Was it long? Did he read it and leave it? And suddenly your mood for hours is decided. If he replies, relief. If not, you spiral. You pace inside yourself, calling it casual, but every notification that isn't him makes your chest sink. Quietly, secretly, you start to ask, why does his attention have this much control over me? You never planned this. You never set out to tie your self-worth to another person's responses. But it happened slowly. It began when he called you different, when he said you were easy to talk to, when he replied a little quicker than before, and you took that as a sign of something real. Now you can't even focus in salah without imagining his reply. You scroll Instagram just to check if he viewed your story, and when he hasn't, emptiness spreads. Not because he is your whole world, but because somewhere along the way, he became your scale of worth. And that is the danger when your sense of enough is attached to someone still figuring themselves out. Someone who answers only when it suits him. Someone who compliments when he's bored. Someone who disappears the moment you expect more. And still, you think you're the problem. You tell yourself if you were prettier, funnier, less clingy, he'd want you more. But here's the real question. Why are you trying to impress a man who hasn't even mastered consistency? Why are your emotions riding waves set by someone else's moods? This isn't love. This is emotional captivity dressed up as romance. And the scariest part, you've stopped asking Allah for clarity. Because deep down, you already know the answer. You just don't want to lose the high of being noticed. But attention isn't love. And love isn't validation. And being validated by someone is not the same as being valued by Allah. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Whoever seeks Allah's pleasure at the cost of displeasing people, Allah will protect him from people. But whoever seeks people's approval at the cost of displeasing Allah, Allah will abandon him to the people." So why are you chasing someone's approval when Allah himself is trying to bring you back? Here's the truth you don't want to face. If your mood, your motivation, your energy are always being hijacked by someone who gives you attention in fragments, that's not tenderness, that's bondage. And your heart was never created to be ruled by temporary people. It was created to anchor itself in the one who never leaves you unseen, the one who never replies late, the one who knew you before you even entered this world, Allah. You want to feel chosen? Wake up for Fajr when it's hard. Fall into sujood when you feel numb, because nothing soothes the ache of wanting to be wanted like realizing you are wanted by the one who wrote your soul into existence. So breathe. Set the phone down. Remember, your worth is not measured in notifications. Don't stay silent when things cross the line. You know the moment. Your phone lights up. It's him. And his message is bolder than yesterday's. Not explicit, just a joke that leans past the edge. You pause, thumb hovering, pulse racing. A voice inside says, "Say something. This isn't you." But another voice, smaller and afraid, whispers, "If I correct him, he'll think I'm overreacting. Just let it pass." So, you reply with an emoji and move on, pretending the unease will fade. Days go by. The late-night chats creep toward Fajr. The video calls blur into playful dares. And promises like, "We'll do nikah soon," become the bandage covering every new compromise. You still pray and you still share reminders about modesty. Yet every time you silence a Quran recitation before he can hear it, something tugs inside your chest. That tug is guilt, and guilt is proof the heart has not gone numb. Ask yourself the questions that echo in countless minds at 2 a.m. Am I being too rigid if I set a line? Wouldn't it be wiser to stay flexible so he doesn't leave? What if no one else comes along? Remember, this setting a pure boundary is not cruelty, it's compassion. The wives and daughters of the Prophet showed warmth, but never at the expense of faith. They were tender yet strong enough to speak when something felt wrong. Their strength was quiet, not mute. Silence that ignores the truth feels safe in the moment, but weighs heavy when you bow in prayer. You rise to pray, and the same thought spins again. Why did I let it pass once more? If that weight keeps growing, it is God calling you back, not to punish you, but to shield you. A relationship that collapses when you ask for respectful words or shorter calls was never strong enough to support your future. A man who truly fears God will embrace the reminder. A man who only fears losing convenience will claim you are asking too much. Let that difference guide you. So the next time the chat takes a turn, pause. Say gently, "I'm not comfortable with this. Let's keep it pure." Speak it with kindness, without lectures or guilt, only truth. If he respects it, the bond is blessed. If he disappears, you are freer than before. Either way, you gain, because your heart stays light, your worship remains soft, and your dignity stands intact. That is true peace, the peace you once prayed for when you asked for the right person. But even after drawing boundaries, the heart plays tricks. It begins to argue that the sheer intensity of feeling must be a sign from God. You know the pattern, your chest flutters, Every reminder about prayer somehow turns into a thought about marriage. And even small coincidences, like him liking the same author, start to feel like heavenly signals. It is tempting to call this destiny because it feels safer than naming it infatuation. Yet faith never taught us to measure truth by butterflies. When the first wife of the prophet chose him, her certainty rested on his character, his honesty, and his devotion, not on one electrifying exchange. Emotion was present, but it lived under the roof of values and commitment, not the other way around. Modern life reverses that order. A long late-night chat feels like a turning point. A sweet voice note feels heavier than a proposal. Two playlists line up, and suddenly it feels like the universe is speaking. Friends cheer you on. The chemistry is crazy. This must be it. Meanwhile, the part of you that usually questions wisely falls silent because it feels good, so good to believe the search is over. But faith offers a calmer test. We were taught that when a matter weighs on the heart, pray sincerely. Oh God, if this is good for my faith, my life, and my future, make it easy. If not, turn it away and turn me away from it. Notice the prayer never asks to keep the feeling. It asks for clarity, ease, and redirection if needed. The heart shifts from being a captive of desire to a seeker of guidance. Ask practical questions the rush usually hides. How does he react when you bring up prayer? Does his respect remain when you set a limit? What do elders and mentors notice that you might miss? A feeling that collapses under honest questions is not crushed love, it is God protecting you before harm can deepen. Remember, the same one who created love also told us to anchor it with wisdom. Intensity without a frame is like rain on dry sand, fast and thrilling but gone by morning. Intensity within the frame of faith is like rain on fertile soil, nurturing something that lasts. So when your heartbeat insists, this must be a sign. Pause, pray. Seek advice from those who care more about your soul than about a movie-like love story. If the way opens and his character proves steady, be grateful and walk forward. If doors close, accept that even closed doors are a mercy. In both cases, you are safe because you chose guidance over adrenaline. But even clarity can feel useless when the heart is scared of being alone. You prayed, you questioned, you reminded yourself that feelings are not proof. Still, part of you clings on. It begins small, a prayer delayed because you were mid-call, a scarf slipped during a rushed video chat, a show you'd normally avoid, but he insists just once. Each choice seems small, but together they weave a quiet shift. His comfort outweighs your promise to God. You whisper, "I'll make it up later." Later turns into weeks, weeks into after marriage, and suddenly you realize you can't remember the last time you prayed at dawn without his name in your thoughts. You still love the recitations that once soothed you, but now you pause them if he calls because missing his ringtone feels heavier than missing a verse. You once lowered your gaze instinctively, but now you scroll past images you'd have closed before, telling yourself, everyone does it. It's not that deep, but it is that deep. The prophet taught that whoever leaves something for God, he will replace it with something better. That promise is timeless, but it requires letting go. True betrayal isn't always a dramatic act. It's the quiet erosion of who you were before a relationship rewrote your priorities. If someone slowly pulls you away from obedience, then staying for romance means leaving the very peace you hoped marriage would bring. Think of the wife of Pharaoh who refused to trade her soul for a palace. Her prayer was, "My Lord, build for me a home near you in paradise." Her safety wasn't in the palace, but in nearness to God. Your test is lighter, no tyrant, no chains, just a choice. Will you bend your faith to fit someone's desires, or shape your relationships by the lines God drew for your protection? Ask yourself simple present-day questions. Do you pray with more focus or less since he entered your life? Do your screens hold more reminders or more distractions? Would you feel proud or ashamed if your family overheard your calls? If a relationship steals from your private worship, the price is too high. Even if the world applauds your love, the cost is your soul. Leaving hurts, but pain for a season is mercy if it saves you from years of spiritual decline. Staying while hoping he changes as you drift is debt collecting interest. Sooner or later it demands payment in joy or in regret. Choose the love that leaves your prayer rug open. The love that makes Quran recitations natural again. The love that respects your choices instead of debating them. Choose the bond that leaves your soul lighter, not weighed with hidden apologies. Because every act of worship you trade for a man is a promise broken with God, and no bond built on broken promises will ever carry blessing. Let him go, or let the habits go, but never let go of the one who knew your name long before love became complicated. If your chest feels heavier now, that weight is not condemnation. It is mercy. It means your heart still beats for God before anyone else. These words were never about rebellion, nor about bitterness toward men. They are an invitation to guard the sacred parts of yourself that love sometimes forgets. If a line sounded sharp, hear it again through faith, not ideology. You are not being told to rebel. You are being called back to the sweetness of prayer, the recitation you used to keep open, the peace you once felt after bowing with dignity intact. Any bond that thrives when you drift from God will suffocate when you move closer to Him. Let that be your measure. If these words touched your struggle, share a simple prayer in the comments. Something like, God, keep my heart firm and my dignity clear. Your words may steady someone else who is bargaining with the same fears tonight. And if you walk away from this choosing a harder but holier path, know that the very one you chose over ease is the only one who can fill the space you cleared.